I never imagined I'd be the guy who'd end up taking down the infamous Barbara Higgins. But life has a funny way of throwing curveballs. For those who don't know me, I'm David Foster, a Child Protective Services worker who moved into Meadowbrook Crossing about 6 months ago. At first glance, the neighborhood looked like a dream. Perfect lawns, a sparkling community pool, and polite neighbors who waved as you passed by. Well, most of them were polite. The glaring exception was none other than Barbara Higgins, better known around here as Brenda, the iron-fisted president of our homeowners association. From the very first week, Brenda made it her personal mission to monitor my every move. My grass, apparently half an inch too tall. My mailbox, not the exact shade of approved chestnut brown as specified in Section 4, Paragraph 12 of the HOA bylaws. And when I left my trash can, visible from the street for just 1 hour after collection, she taped a scathing letter to my front door like it was a public notice. All of that, however, it was just the warm-up act for the chaos that was about to unfold. What happened next would become the most talked-about moment in Meadowbrook Crossing history. It was a blistering Saturday in July, the kind of day where the air felt thick enough to swim through. By noon, the temperature had soared to 98 degrees, and the humidity made it feel like a sauna with no escape. I had just come back from the grocery store and was unloading bags when I saw Brenda marching across the street toward Mrs. Alvarez's house. Her ever-present clipboard was clutched against her chest like a knight's shield. Trailing behind her was her son Leo, maybe 8 years old, dragging his feet and looking miserable under the scorching sun. "Leo, stay in the car," Brenda snapped over her shoulder. "I just need to talk to Mrs. Alvarez about her unauthorized garden gnomes. I won't be long." I watched as she double-clicked her key fob, locking the doors not once but twice, like she was guarding a treasure. The windows were rolled up tight. I froze mid-step, holding a gallon of milk. Did she just lock her kid in the car on one of the hottest days of the year? Surely not. Maybe she left the engine running. Maybe the air conditioning was on. But as I looked closer, I realized the car was completely off. No rumbling engine, no cold air fogging the windows, just a little boy trapped in what was quickly turning into an oven. Now, I should mention, in my line of work, I've seen far too many heartbreaking cases of children left in hot cars. Some by mistake, others out of neglect. But they all share one thing: danger. Within minutes, the inside of a vehicle can heat up 20 degrees hotter than the air outside. On a day like that, it doesn't take long before it becomes life-threatening, especially for a child. I knew I had to act, fast but calmly. I set down my groceries, wiped my palms, and walked toward the car. Peering through the glass, I could already see sweat beating down Leo's forehead. His face was flushed bright red. I tapped gently on the window and gave him a reassuring smile. "Hey, buddy," I said, loud enough to carry through the glass. "You doing okay in there?" He shook his head, tugging at the door handle, but the child lock kept it shut. "My mom says I have to stay here," he said, his voice muffled. "It's really hot." "I know, buddy. How about I go talk to your mom real quick, okay?" I turned toward Mrs. Alvarez's front yard, where Brenda was standing. Arms crossed, clipboard ready, lecturing about a few ceramic gnomes arranged near a fountain. Before I could even get there, she spotted me approaching and instantly stiffened, her smile tight and forced. "Mr. Foster," she said coolly, "if this is about your unapproved bird feeder, I've already documented it. You'll be receiving a formal notice by Monday." I kept my voice steady and professional. "Actually, Mrs. Higgins, I'm here about your son. You've locked him inside your car with no air conditioning. And it's almost 100 degrees outside." Her expression hardened, her knuckles whitening around the clipboard. "I'm taking care of HOA business, and I'll only be a few minutes. Leo's perfectly fine." I left him with his tablet. She turned right back toward Mrs. Alvarez, gesturing at the gnomes again. "As I was saying, these decorative items are not authorized." "Mrs. Higgins," I cut in firmly, still keeping my tone controlled. The interior of your car could hit 120 degrees in under 20 minutes today. Your son is already showing signs of distress. Brenda whipped around, face red, more from anger than heat. Are you seriously trying to tell me how to parent my child? Who do you think you are? I took a breath, steady, but serious. I'm a child protective services worker, I said, locking eyes with her. And I'm legally obligated to intervene if I see a child in a dangerous situation. Please unlock your car now. For a split second, her face faltered. Uncertainty flickering behind her eyes before pride and indignation quickly took their place again. This is ridiculous. I know what's best for my son, Brenda snapped, crossing her arms defensively. This will only take a few more minutes, and he's fine waiting in the car. Mind your own business and stop trying to undermine my authority. That phrase, my authority, told me everything I needed to know. Brenda's HOA presidency had warped her sense of control. Tina's sense between community leadership and personal power had completely blurred. She honestly believed she was above reproach, even when her own child's safety was on the line. Mrs. Higgins, I said firmly, if you don't unlock your car right now, I'll have no choice but to call 911. This isn't about HOA rules or your authority. This is about your son's life. Her eyes went wide with disbelief. You wouldn't dare. Do you know how many violations I could find at your house if I really looked? That garden of yours is at least 2 inches over the height restriction. And don't think I haven't noticed those non-regulation wind chimes on your back porch. I pulled my phone from my pocket, calm but resolute. Mrs. Higgins, I don't care about wind chimes or garden heights right now. Your son is locked in a car that's quickly turning deadly, and that's my only concern. Without hesitation, I dialed 911, holding her gaze as the line rang. When the dispatcher answered, I spoke clearly and calmly. Yes, I'm reporting a child locked in a hot car. The mother is refusing to unlock it. Yes. I've informed her of the danger. The address is 42 Meadowbrook Lane. As I spoke, I could see Brenda's expression shifting. Anger melting into panic as she realized this situation was spiraling beyond her control. This is absurd, she exclaimed, fumbling for her keys. I'm unlocking it right now. There's no need for this drama. She jabbed at the unlock button with trembling hands until I heard the car's locks click open. I thanked the dispatcher and hung up, informing Brenda that officers were still en route as required by protocol. By now, the commotion had drawn half the neighborhood out of their homes. Mrs. Alvarez stood on her porch, wide-eyed, her garden gnomes completely forgotten. Mr. Henderson from across the street was hurrying over, concern written all over his face. I rushed to the car and opened the back door. Leo practically stumbled out. His cheeks beat red, sweat soaking his hair. It was really hot in there, he gasped, taking deep breaths of the humid air. Even though it was still blazing outside, it was clearly much cooler than inside that car. I know, buddy, I said gently. Let's get you some water, okay? I guided him toward my porch where my grocery bag still sat in the driveway. Brenda trailed behind, switching between defensive outrage and empty threats. This is completely unnecessary, she shouted. Leo was perfectly fine. You're overreacting and trying to turn everyone against me. Just wait until the next board meeting. I'll have plenty to say about your violations. I ignored her. My only focus was Leo. I grabbed a water bottle from my groceries and handed it to him. Here, drink this and sit in the shade, I said, gesturing toward the porch steps. The distant wail of sirens soon grew louder, echoing through the neighborhood. When the police arrived, they immediately began taking statements. One officer checked the interior of Brenda's car with a digital thermometer. The reading made everyone's stomach drop, 132 degrees, and that was after Leo had been out for several minutes. The other officer crouched beside Leo, speaking gently. The boy admitted this wasn't the first time he'd been left in the car while his mom handled HOA. Business? What happened next was something I never thought I'd witness in our quiet, rule-obsessed community. After radioing their sergeant and confirming the facts, the officers walked back toward Brenda, who was still ranting about neighborhood bylaws. "Mrs. Higgins," one officer said solemnly, based on witness statements and the evidence, "we're placing you under arrest for child endangerment." Brenda's mouth fell open. Arrest? This is outrageous. "Do you have any idea who I am?" "I'm the president of the Homeowners Association." The officer didn't flinch. "Ma'am, please turn around and place your hands behind your back." As the cuffs clicked into place, Brenda's bravado began to crumble. She looked around at the growing crowd, the very neighbors she'd spent years policing and intimidating, now staring at her in silent judgment. "This is a misunderstanding," she pleaded. "Tell them I'm a good mother. Tell them how I keep our neighborhood perfect." But no one spoke up for her. In fact, several neighbors nodded quietly as the officers led her toward the patrol car. Her clipboard, her symbol of power, dangled loosely in one hand before finally slipping from her grasp and landing on the pavement. Leo was placed into temporary protective custody by another CPS worker, my colleague, Rachel, who happened to be on call that weekend. I watched as she gently helped him into her vehicle, giving me a small understanding nod before driving off. 3 days later, the HOA board called an emergency meeting. Brenda's arrest had become local news, complete with video footage filmed by Mrs. Alvarez's teenage son, showing Brenda refusing to unlock the car. The board wasted no time. By unanimous vote, Barbara Brenda Higgins was officially removed as HOA president. The final blow came the following week at her arraignment. In addition to losing her position, she now faced a Class A misdemeanor charge, child endangerment, carrying up to a year in jail, and a $4,000 fine. As the judge read the charges, Brenda sat motionless, disbelief written across her face as her carefully constructed empire of control and intimidation crumbled before her eyes. But I was just following the rules. She whispered faintly, more to herself than anyone else. As the bailiff led her away, her clipboard, her crown of authority, was gone for good. And Meadowbrook Crossing was finally free from her reign. Subscribe to HOA Conflicts for more.